What's up, guys? It's your host, Spartanic Arts DXD, back with another high school DXD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Abandoned, Part 11. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes again. And if you guys want to know exactly when I upload, such my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. But before anything, we hit 30K, baby! We hit that 30,000 subscriber mark. Now, I was planning on releasing What If Issei Had Ultra Instinct, the movie, when we hit 30K. But as you can tell by my voice right now, I am sick. So yeah, I got I don't know, there's some weird new thing going around where there's something that's like super contagious, whatever. It'll be probably for me it'll probably be like gone tomorrow. But yeah, I'll be absolutely fine. So you guys don't have to worry a thing about it. But without further ado, you guys should probably subscribe to my Dragon Ball channel first. And Popowski. Also follow DXD down in the description below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and thank our balance breakers. Rob the King, Lachlan Yates, Atomic Warlord 58, Crumbling Darkness Fear, Aunt Lewis, The Beast YT3, Colex, Joe Baldwin, Keep Saying 21, Dragonlord 003, Senrar Q, X Patadad Gaming, VRWeb hashtag 2347, Sanitates, Jordan Patchow, Mazaku, Dr. MOG The Bomb, Asimotis, Grimfire Shot Gamer, That Round Guy in Zero Fusion. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And without further ado, thanks for all the support. It's been absolutely amazing. 30K is such a huge milestone. You guys have no idea. I cannot wait to hit 50 and 40K. I'll probably celebrate like 50K more than if I ever get to 100,000 subscribers. I feel like I'll celebrate 50 more than I celebrate that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into part 11. If you would like to follow along, we're starting right at the end or a little bit in the middle, right below the middle of chapter 6. Here we go. It seems people already arrived, Issei told her as he looked at the huge line at the gate. It appears we need to line up. She crossed her arms and muttered, clearly annoyed. Issei only laughed. Ha, what are you saying? We're already on the list. There's no need for that, he winked at her. She caught his indirect and also smirked. Walking towards the big gate, they approached the yokai in charge. It was a Karsogu Tengu, a crow demon. It had the appearance of an old male figure and wore a classic cheap-looking tuxedo. Who are you? He asked the moment he saw them. The beauty at the moment did her magic. The man was holding straight at them, hidden anger, and then, like magic, he changed his expression very amicably, remembered them. A great pleasure to see you again, Miss Benokomichi. Please, follow me. The party is about to begin. They looked at each other and smiled and said, thank you. Following after him, the yokai began speaking. Since you just arrived, I'll give you a brief rundown. They nodded their heads. Right now, the plan was going perfectly. The Seirogen, Koshio Ogamo, and Otsutenzin were the party will mainly be held. Right now, we entered through the Urakomane's gate. Soon we'll reach the Seirogen. Inside, you're free to go to any of the locations I mentioned. He bowed and explained that both of them just nodded their heads. After those words, they followed after him and while the palace. The roads were made out of gravel and pieces of stone, but the building in the distance looked impressive. It looked like an ancient Japanese house, but everything looked brand new. The walls were painted in pearly white, while inclined the ceiling was black. A lot of wooden pillars could be seen supporting the ceiling, all painted red. A lot of the palace was also red, of course, aside from the main buildings. They stopped walking at the Katsuron Tengu, opened the door in front of them. Have an excellent night. After saying that, he laughed. That was strange. They crossed the door and closed it sooner. They were inside of a classic hall, like those in the white and black movies. The entire room was humongous, and many people wearing suits, tuxedos, and dresses were here as well. Some were chatting amicably, others were trying to seduce women, and the rest were present for business rather than pleasure. The hall was illuminated by many fancy oil lamps that hung from the walls, giving it a traditional and refined look to the venue. We need to figure out where the treasure is located, Issei finally talked. He turned his head around and made eye contact with the beauty that was grabbing his arm. Yes, let's separate and find the information we're looking for. The woman agreed to propose to him. Issei just nodded his head and also in agreement. They decided So not as to make anyone suspicious, to give each other their farewells as if they were a couple looking for their friends. Of course, all of that was for teasing the other, but neither of them would agree to that. As they separated from each other, Issei went towards the crowd of people and began walking around. Man, this is a big place filled with the brim. He looked around his surroundings, in which either a yokai or other beings were present. Some human mages were also here, and even high-class devils. Angels and fallen were present. Seeing them, Issei was a bit surprised, maybe because they finally finished their work. They came to the party to find something relaxing to do. He couldn't think of any other reason other than that. He continued to walk with his hands in his pockets, occasionally relying a greeting with a nod of his head or a small smile. A few sneaky glances from the female population were thrown at him. After all, he looked pretty good. His suit was all worn on him, although he looked like a little skinny. He was working on it. His face was sharp and even cold, appearing indifferent. His black and red eyes scared a couple of people, while the others just made them uncomfortable. His mark was proudly shining in low violet light at the left side of his forehead. How am I supposed to find the information I need while not making anyone suspicious nor revealing my identity? He was trying to find the answer to his question until he saw a place where he instinctively knew that he could find the information that he was looking for. The bar, he smirked. The bar was simple-looking. Pitch-black shelves rested against the wall, reaching all the way up to the ceiling. Many different bottles rested on the shelves behind the bar top. They had things he recognized, like whiskey, vodka, gin, and rum, to things he didn't know, like Zambuca, mezcal, and among others. The bar top was a light wooden color that was recently polished and had many different glasses rested on top of it. A couple of men were drinking near the top of the bar and were either talking to their friends or waiting for their drinks. Issei walked closer and stopped, looking around when he saw the bartender. The bartender asked, "What would you like to drink?" Issei was sweating on the inside. He didn't know drinks too well. He then remembered a movie he watched some time ago and said, "A Nerdroni." He replied calmly. He didn't know how it tasted, but he needed to appear like he knew. Then he approached the bartender, who was calmly preparing his drink, and started a conversation. "A rough night?" The bartender smirked and said, "Yeah, many people came here, and a couple of gods came to me for a drink, scared the crap out of me." "So gods really did come, huh?" He didn't like the sound of that. "Wow, that sounds tough. Were they any good, or were they rather bad?" Issei was a little interested in the topic of the talk. The bartender thought of his answer for a second. He was a young man who appeared to be less than 30, and by his magical reserves, it seemed that he was a human mage. They acted quite humbly, not at all like one would think. The bartender was stirring his drink and soon gave it to him. Issei received it with his hand and asked, "Which gods were they?" It seemed to be weird for them to act like that. He then put the drink into his lips and drank from it. "Please don't be bad." He prayed inside his head as the liquid entered his mouth. He widened his eyes and looked at the glass and simply stared at it with an terrible look in his eyes. "Where were you in my whole life?" It tasted quite good. The bittersweet flavor left on the mouth made you want more. About that, he sounded unsure. "I believe they were Amaterasu-sama and Susanoo-sama. Other gods also came, but I couldn't figure out who they were," he told Issei, cleaning the glass. "I see. So more gods aside from the Shinto pantheon." He drank another mouthful of his drink. "And what about the so-called treasure? Did they say something it's important? Do you know it?" He asked the question he needed to answer most. The bartender was thoughtful. "About that, I don't really know. They were quite zealous about the name, but I do know that it's inside the Shishiri Den." He told Issei, lifting up a finger. His face had a satisfied smile. "Oh," Issei was intrigued by the answer. "So inside the ceremonial building, quite suiting." He smiled as he finished his drink in a single movement. He looked at his glass and said, "Another one, please." The bartender only nodded his head. A moment after he received the drink, bid his farewell, and left the bar, now searching for the beauty that was accompanying him. "Well, I already know in which place it is located at, but I do not know how much security it has." He walked the same way he did when he first came back here, his drink still on his hands. "I need to find Fuki and continue the plan." He kept walking, but he didn't expect to find a couple of people he knew rather well. "Well, that's just my luck," he thought, as he saw a woman he knew talk among her friends. She was a female with long black hair that was let down and a pair of violet eyes. She was wearing a short blue dress and was talking with some people he knew extremely powerful. They appeared to be her friends. That's Seraphol for you. He smirked. He watched the blue-dressed beauty. At her side, a woman with beautiful red hair, similar to a flame, was giggling, while her mouth, a glass of champagne on her left hand. She looked like someone easy to talk with and was wearing a beautiful, form-fitting red dress with gold contrast on it. Her sleeve was separated from her dress, and they seemed to be a long silk-like gloves that reached her elbows. She gave the impression of a refined, high-class lady, while not being arrogant at all. Her dress reached below her knees, showing a bit of her skin, where gold needle-like high heels covered her calves and her feet. The other person talking with them was also a woman. She had silver white hair, while a crescent moon hair ornament was drying her glossy hair into a high ponytail that flowed gently down her back and just above her hips. She had a beauty that was similar to a fairy, and she would break the slightest of touches like a crystal statue that could only look at the sky. Her face was a creamy white, with a healthy blush on her cheeks. Her eyes appeared too You know what? No one cares. Goddess, Issei noted. The amount of power, it's no mistake. He was a bit worried. He decided to take his distance, as his eyes never left the three women. He was trying to figure out what they were talking about, but a figure behind him then surprised him so much he almost popped his eyes from his skull. "What are you doing here, Volley?" A silver-haired youth was behind him. He wore a pure white suit with light blue dress shirt, and like him, he didn't have a tie. His suit seemed to be quite a single piece in his feet. He had dark brown Oxford dress shoes. His hair was the same as always. He didn't change that at all. Nevertheless, Issei noticed he took the attention of quite the amount of female population. Complete opposite of me, he smirked when he realized his own style in Volley's. The youth appeared to be bored and had his eyes closed, but something awoke him from his sleep. "Volley, someone is watching us." "Of course, Albion," he replied, "and many people are present, and we're behind the three beauties over there, so we could obviously catch the attention of vast majority of people here." He mentally talked to the dragon. He then gave an exhausted sigh. "I can't believe I came here as a bodyguard. Nothing will happen." He was also insulting the only one that gave him this mission, mainly Azazel and the rest of the leaders. "I don't think it's that simple, Volley," Albion said to his partner. "What do you mean?" he asked, intrigued by the comment of the dragon. "I sense another dragon here, and a strong one at it. I suppose he isn't here for a drink. After all, his presence is emanating caution, as if he's excited or nervous about something. Maybe this party will end in a different way." "If it's like that, then why are they so comfortable among themselves?" Volley said, while pointing at the woman with his head. They were laughing and talking like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Because dragons can sense other dragons. It would prove difficult for them to find him if he doesn't want to be found by others. But something about his aura seems different, as if he's hiding his true natural aura and just showing a fake. What could he be doing?" Albion was interested in the dragon. Hearing the tone of his partner's voice, Volley was curious. "Where is he?" asked, prepared for anything. "Some place around your 10. He's cautious, so I cannot sense more," Albion told him. After all, he also wanted to know this dragon. Issei, on the other hand, kept staring at Volley. "Just how did you get dragged into this?" He was shocked that the Hierarcho actually agreed to attend the party. "Well, what happens, happens." Prepared for anything, he muttered to himself while he shrugged his shoulders, also taking a sip of his drink. Soon after, Volley opened his eyes and stared at the general direction, startling Issei. He swiftly moved to the side and covered himself with the silhouette of a huge gray guy. In front of him, he focused on hiding his aura to the most he could. "That was close," he sweated. "It seems Albion sensed me. That's not good. They should know something is up. But I doubt he will tell anyone. We need to end this plan quickly." While hiding himself even more, Issei thought. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of a bell was heard, indicating midnight. The three women stopped their talk and looked at the clock. "Ah, no fun." Seraphol pouted while looking on the clock on the wall. "Hoo, it seems it's time," the red-haired woman spoke, only for them to hear. "Amaterasu, Seraphol, be more serious. We will announce something important," the silver-haired woman spoke, clearly reprimanding them. Artemis-chan, please be a little less serious. It will make you look less old than you already are, Amaterasu teased the goddess named Artemis. Don't call me like that, she blushed all the way back to her neck. Amaterasu only giggled in return. Time to go, Seraphol was excited as always. The doors at the sides were closed, and Seraphol was standing right at the center alongside of the other goddesses. A spotlight highlighted the location they were at. Thank you for coming, everyone. Amaterasu spoke in a clear, defined voice, leaving her carefree manner for once. We gathered all of you today at this place to make an announcement, Artemis yelled in her serious and professional voice. It's about the world-class rating game, Seraphol still spoke, like she always does. Those news got the interest of Issei. Soon, as they were all talking about how grateful they were, their presence and their thanks for supporting during the attack from the beast, he saw Fuki walking towards him, doing her best to hide from any yokai nearby. As she walked in between the people, she reached Issei's side. Found anything? By her tone, it appeared that she didn't find anything worth noting. Yes, those words caused her to breathe in relief. It's located at the Shinsenin Den, but I don't know how much security is there. Also, other gods aside from the Shinto pantheon appear to be here. He told her almost all of this information. The drink in his hand was now gone after those last words. Yes. I see. What were you drinking? With the accustoming glare she asked him. Issei didn't even sweat her tone. Nijaroni. Quite good. He smiled at the remnants of the drink. She instead face-palmed. He seemed too calm. Be a little more serious, she pinched his arm as revenge. Ouch. Okay, easy. I also found out another annoying person is here. He regained the seriousness glint in his eyes that she knew for him. Okay, my bad. Who? She was also serious. For someone to be considered annoying to him, it seemed to be quite a strong person. The White Dragon Emperor. She widened her eyes. Also a war hero equal to him. Having fought many strong enemies and defeated all of them, his power is said to rival the actual heavenly dragon, if not more. Isn't he as strong as you? Before, yes, but after my, let's say, accident, I think he should be stronger. After all, the boosted gear is still rebooting, and I am in my base form. I don't think I can defeat him if he decides to fight everything with he has. He critically analyzed his own strength, and reached the conclusion that if he fought volley with his Imperio Juggernaut Overdrive, he wouldn't win. Of course, his normal balance breaker was another story completely. Like that, she was worried. The reputation of the White Dragon Emperor was nothing to scoff at. Don't worry, even if he gets serious with both of us, I think that we could defeat him. But if he uses his Dragon Lucifer drive, then he thought about the last part. Soon the words he wanted to hear were finally here. About the world-class rating game. For one to participate, he needs to go to the Underworld to one of many centers available at the register. Seraphol was the first one to talk. Issei put all of his attention on her words. Even Fuki was the same. Once registered, one will receive two things. She lifted two fingers up. One will be the case with chess pieces. Those pieces have the same effect as normal evil pieces, but they will not transform people into devils. They will only gift the abilities of the pieces seen in the rating game. A knight will be faster, rook stronger. Seraphol was explaining while looking around. Issei and Fuki were still hidden behind the huge guy. And to make it more interesting, we also have the mutation pieces. Her words made Issei speechless. So depending on the ones set, there will be very powerful more members on their team. A mutated piece is extremely rare, so not many will be seen. Also, a mutation piece will be able to make a god-class being into a part of the team just with that piece alone. In other words, if you have a mutated rook, just that piece will be sufficient to make a god-class participant. Those words surprised everyone. Neither Issei or Fuki were expectations. The way the game will be much more interesting to play and to watch. Second, she raised her second finger, making everyone pay attention to her. You will be given a phone with a sole app installed. That app is impossible to be downloaded and is only installed onto phones given by the administrators of the centers. Everything will be done through that app. When opened, the app will load a small tutorial for you to understand how everything will work. Seraphiel finished her explanation, and not a single voice was heard after that. Everyone was thinking about the news, but before anyone could ask something, she spoke again. The tournament will officially start in less than 3 months. At the moment, the exact date, location, and match will be posted on the app. Since this is Monday, registration will be available until the day before the first match is posted. Anyone can register. The king and the name of the team must be decided at that moment. This time she visibly relaxed and let out a breath of air. It seems this will be more interesting, but also more troublesome, Issei was thinking to himself. The bonus of the mutation pieces was pretty unexpected, but what he did not like was the underworld. He was worried about going to that place. After all, he didn't have a good feelings about it. I'll worry about it later. Now we need to get the treasure. He turned and looked at the QB, which was also thinking about something. We need to go to the place in which the treasure is located at. Worst comes to worst, we use force and steal it, he told the beauty, which only nodded her head. They needed to get out of here. The longer they stayed, the more dangerous it was for them. I know the location, she told Issei. He only smirked and followed her. Let's end this, he muttered to himself as he followed the beauty out of the crowd. At the same time, a voice loud coming off from the spotlight was heard, so they both turned their heads. Guest, about the treasure. It will be presented in less than an hour, so until then, please enjoy the night. The red-haired woman talked to the guests about the treasure. They all just nodded. Fuki and Issei approached the exit door and opened it. After some twists and turns, they reached the hallway, and they believed the treasure was located at, and it sure was. They knew since many guards were stationed here, all of them ultimate class, from low tier to high tier, of course, where some were even weaker than top tier high class, but that was expected. The reason for them being so weak despite being of that level was because of the quantity of their magic reserves just reached the level of ultimate class, and not the quality of one. All of the guards stood there, not moving a millimeter. Both of them watched them from the corner of the hallway, their eyes scanning them. You think you could cast a powerful illusion over us for them not to notice us? He asked the beauty. An illusion strong enough to cheat ultimate class? Yes, I can, but I don't know if they will notice the traces left during the active state of the spell. She was also thinking the same as him. Do it. Worst comes to worst, we fight against them, Issei ordered while peeking at the guards. Fuki just nodded her head and started to concentrate. Mist appeared and covered their bodies from bottom to top, and soon they disappeared. Follow me and don't make noise. The beauty grabbed his hand and started to walk in the direction of the guards. All were just looking at an empty hall. After some seconds, they reached an extremely close distance to the guards. The QB concentrated even more, and Issei was on his guard in case of anything. After releasing a breath, they didn't know they were holding. They turned their sights to in front of them. They saw nothing except a big wooden door that reached the ceiling. Fuki didn't let her guard down. She kept the illusion active in case of anything. Quite impressive, Issei expressed his sincere praise, and she managed to bring them here. The beauty just smiled, but due to the compliment, she had a discreet blush on her cheeks. The treasure should be behind the door. She pointed over her shoulder, and he looked at him. Do you think there's someone guarding the treasure behind the door? He was cautious. Maybe a trap was placed behind the door. As a response, she released her 9 tails alongside her ears and gently closed her eyes. A gentle aura surrounded her body. Even Issei, that was at her side, wasn't able to feel the ripples of power at all. After a couple of minutes, she replied, I don't feel any living thing inside, but a lot of energy signatures were found. Someone placed really powerful spells inside as a safety measure. They appear to be quite complex as well. She narrowed her eyes, her tails following freely behind her. Issei just stared at them, waving from the other side to another. They seemed quite comfortable. His thoughts, as always, were on a different line, but he still replied to her comment. Remove the illusion from both of us. Right now, we don't need it. She did as asked, and the mist covered them. Next, we should open the door, and since you deactivated immediately, I'll be on guard. In case something happens, I'll be the bait. You just concentrate on getting the Yakuken and Nokomakatama. I will buy as much time as need be. He was serious about this plan. She just nodded her head, and a little emotion was seen in her eyes. Be careful, she expressed her worry, and Issei smiled back at her. They reached the door, and she carefully opened it. You'll be the only one inside. Stay there until you get it. His voice was sharp and gentle. I'll stay here, and whatever happens, happens. Don't come out. He ordered as a true leader should. She stared at his unwavering eyes and soon turned around and crossed the door. She entered the room, and Issei closed the door behind her, being the only one left outside. Let's hope for the best. He stood in front of the door and crossed his arms. He closed his eyes and extended his senses to the point that the guards didn't notice. 30 minutes later. Time skip. Until this point, everything was going perfect. According to Issei, just another 10 minutes and they will be able to get out of here. Come on, he was anxious. The spells seemed to be too complicated even for Fuki, but he believed in her. He only needed to wait. Soon all of his hopes were thrown down the drain. He sensed how the guards were moving in a military fashion and 2 auras were coming closer. One of them he knew quite closely. In the end, a fight is going to happen, huh? Issei muttered while preparing himself. He activated his darkness and covered his left arm and right thigh almost in their entirety. After thinking for a little bit, Issei covered the left side of his face with his darkness as well. It gave the appearance of his mark extending, just in case. The entire left side of his face was covered while his right was covered by his hair. He hoped that with this, he might be able to fool them. Soon, the 2 figures crossed the corner of the hallway with the guards behind them. The first thing they saw was a figure standing in front of the door with his arms crossed. His eyes were similarly closed. The ones coming from the corner were a beauty with red hair that emitted a lot of hot and burning aura, and the other one was a silver-haired youth with a large aura. Now I believe this is kind of ironic. You fighting against crime while I am doing the crime. How life twists and turns, right? Volley. Issei was mocking his fate. The male and female at the moment they saw the figure prepare themselves for a fight. Who are you? The beauty asked while looking at the man in front of her. The silver-haired youth was concentrating on him as well. The figure slowly opened his eyes. The moment those eyes landed on both of them, felt a chill run down their spines. His eyes were cold to a point that the Arctic seemed warm. They were also extremely sharp and heavy, and they felt as if a knife was against their throats. Just a glare made me feel like this? Volley was shocked. No one has ever made him feel like this with only his eyes. Only the beast of Apocalypse was capable. I asked, who are you? The beauty was also startled by the look in his eyes. Trying to prove her point, she increased her aura, flames covering her body. If I was you, I wouldn't do that, Issei coldly stated. His voice was the same as his eyes, cold and sharp but emotionless. Need to gain time. I'll have to bluff. He had an idea, an extremely crazy idea. Let us say that I planted a bomb in the middle of where your little party is going. It's directly connected to the aura of a god, and if said god increases her aura, then boom! A crater where the Imperial Palace once stood. His voice was arrogant and confident. Please work, but his thoughts were different. The beauty paled and retracted her aura, not taking any chances. The man seemed absolutely serious about his threat. Then who exactly are you? The silver-haired boy asked. That's for me to know and you to figure out. White Dragon Emperor. Issei needed to gain as much time as he could. After all, he didn't know when this bluff would fail. If the goddess decided to fight, then it will end badly for both Fuki and him. What do you want? The goddess asked him, discreetly trying to call for someone, but before that, if you move from your position or decide to call for someone, I'll gladly detonate the bomb. The goddess was surprised he figured her intentions out. She bit her lip and stopped moving. About your question, he looked in her eyes. I am searching for what's inside the door behind me, Issei explained, while pointing his thumb at the door. You wish for the treasure, terrorist? She was angered. Being called like that actually hurts a bit, he thought, but continued his play. Half correct. He didn't explain more. Half? The youth asked him, preparing to catch any openings in his guard, but neither him nor Albion could see them. Volley. This aura. It's the dragon we sensed back at the hall. but his aura is still hidden. I think he's afraid of something. Albion mentally spoke to his partner. Afraid of what? The goddess? He asked back, trying to find an answer. No, I don't think so. Look at him. He's completely disregarded the goddess and even threatened her. This means something else. Albion was trying to figure him out. Try to gain some time. More we stand in front of him, the more I'll be able to know. Sure, Volley replied, and soon answered the former question he asked. Indeed, the thing is, his tone heavy, the means they used to acquire the treasure were not as they told you. Issei didn't know who the goddess was. The amount of deities in the Japanese pantheon was no joke, but since she was here to retrieve the treasure and also flames, he had a guess. And he hoped the guess was right. Amaterasu, you should try and ask for your subordinates how they actually got the Yakuza no Magatama. He mentally prayed. His guess about the goddess was right. Seeing her face change from anger to surprise, then shock, he knew he was right. Bingo, he was happy. My subordinates? She trusted her subordinates, so the idea of them lying to her was absurd in her eyes. They wouldn't lie to me, she tried to refute. Are you sure? Sorry to pop your bubble. But they did. His voice was heartless. The method in which they gained the treasure is different from what they told you, and the true reason behind it, who actually got it and why, is also wrong. What do you mean? Volley interrupted the man. Let's just say that the professor of the treasure was believed to be a criminal, and along with her family they were chased throughout Japan for decades by your subordinates, the yokai. He was slightly angry when he mentioned that. An innocent who wasn't believed to be one. His voice had concealed fury. Amaterasu, you should worry more about the details after all. That's where the devil is hidden. He was explaining, but then Amaterasu screamed. Details? What do you mean? She was getting desperate. Her guards behind her were also looking weird, as if something was making them uncomfortable. Do they know about what he's talking about? Meaning, he asked back, for that you should ask your yokai. And for the truth behind this, then you should ask the one that was most affected by it. Issei raised his voice, ending the conversation. He didn't want to talk about that more. It wasn't his place to talk about it. It seems that I'll need to fight, he was thinking. Then he heard, Vanishing Dragon, Balance Breaker. The silver-haired youth changed into his suit of armor. I don't know who you are, but I was tasked to protect this place, and while I'm doing it, nothing will happen, Vala yelled at him. Quite the heroic spirit you got, huh? Issei smirked and mocked him. Rip! The sound of air ripping was heard, then Volley appeared in front of Issei with his fist cocked back. He then released his punch and hit him with all the strength in his body he had. Issei coated his entire left arm in darkness, decreasing the degree of coverage the rest of his body. Then he extended his palm, planning to receive the punch. Crack! The sound of metal cracking was heard. Issei just caught Volley's punch. Is that all you got? He had a smug grin on his face. Meanwhile, Volley was surprised that his punch just got caught. This was definitely bad. Once he caught his strike, a huge amount of dust was released from the ground, making a huge cloud of smoke that covered all of the entrance behind him. Issei slowly clenched his right hand, forming a fist. His legs were separated at the same time as his shoulders, and his fist was at his hip. My turn. His eyes shone with mysterious light and released his punch. Bam! He hit Volley right at the center of his armor. The jewel and the chest part of his armor completely destroyed, while Volley was sent flying backwards straight towards Amaterasu. Ugh! Volley vomited in blood mid-fight. Amaterasu was trying to do something, but Issei yelled, Move, goddess, and people die. His voice was as cold as he could make it. He was seen walking from a huge cloud of dust. He walked slowly, and his left arm slowly turned back to a normal human flesh. He walked closer and closer, right towards where Volley landed. Soon Volley lifted himself up from the crater his landing made, the top part of his armor gone. Split! He turned his head and spat blood. Damn, he's strong. Volley was still slightly dizzy from that blow. Get a hold of yourself. You let your guard down and paid for it. Now focus, Albion screamed inside his mind. Yeah. A battle-hungry grin appeared on his face as his armor regenerated. He seems to be a close-type fighter. Take your distance and fight him where you have the advantage. Then, Volley just nodded his head and flew from his position, both of his hands, big amount of demonic power, pure white in color. Take this, he screamed, and Issei smirked. Boom! When the attack landed, they heard a scoff. An explosion of light and power covered their sight, making the entire building tremble. Volley was silent. He didn't know if he actually did damage. After the smoke dispersed, a huge crater was before the door, but no one was in it. Where? He screamed, but as soon as he got his answer from the back of a kick that sent him flying through the wall. Crash! He smashed onto the ground. The gravel and stones outside were sent flying everywhere. "Stay here, goddess." While walking past her, Issei said so that she doesn't think of anything. Putting a single foot in the hole of the wall, Issei jumped and soon reached the big crater outside. He didn't talk. He knew something like that would hardly affect Volley. A white light was soon seen. It reached the sky and a white figure was inside of it. Volley was angry at the fact that he got some damage from that kick. "Try getting closer to use Divine Dividing. I doubt you'll let me." From their little exchange, he noticed how the man was extremely cautious of actually being hit by him. Thinking of Volley, extended his hand, a blue magic circle appeared on it. Lightning! He muttered. A huge blue lightning came from the circle, approaching Issei at ridiculous speed. Boom! A huge explosion occurred. This time it hit. He was sure of it. His eyes never left his opponent. "Not bad," a voice was heard from the crater. A man jumped. His clothing were slightly burned and tattered, but nothing more. "That's actually stung a bit." He cracked his neck and looked at the armor of Volley. "Albion," he asked his partner. "Remember, us dragons have a huge resistance against any type of magic," he told him. "Then how about something more powerful?" Volley smirked. Afterwards, 6 demonic bolts of thick lightning were shot from them. Issei knitted his brows. Time to get serious. 6 spheres of darkness were formed of his surroundings, and like Volley did, he shot at him. The spheres were past the lightning bolts, obviously, and aimed directly at Volley. Seeing those spheres, Albion screamed, "Dodge!" He did as he told and twisted his body to the point where the spheres only nicked his armor. But what happened after they touched him surprised him. The pieces of his shoulders and legs were completely vaporized, as if they were not there to begin with. Power of destruction? No. "It seems those spheres are flames compressed to the limit. They superheated your armor to the point it reached a melting point, and they simply vaporized what was left of it." Albion was shocked by those flames. "I don't know how hot they are, but if it melted the armor in less than a second, then don't touch them. If they hit you, you will receive burns. You will be turned into dust." He warned Volley. They looked back at an even bigger crater that was made by him. The man was both arms crossed in a shape of an X. He had light burns all over his arms, but nothing serious. Looking back to the one that caused the crater, Issei narrowed his eyes even more. "I can't let my darkness heal me, at least not yet." He stopped the healing process and began thinking. "Hellblaze," he muttered. On the left hand of his purple-black flame materialized. Volley. "I know." Seeing those flames, both of them knew they were bad news. "Catch!" Issei threw the flames. His hands, when they separated into 6 clusters, approached Volley in different directions. Volley was on guard and avoided them with some trouble. His body made movements which seemed impossible, but he was successful with his dodging. He mocked him as he see the flames pass him, but suddenly a cluster of flames he dodged turned back, aiming at his left side. His left arm was struck with those various flames. Volley could feel the heat of the flames through his armor. "Albion, release the part of the armor that was hit." Albion did as told and left the part of armor alongside his left pauldron. Fell to the ground with a heavy sound. "What exactly are those flames?" he asked in a loud voice, looking at the flames from the corner of his eye. "Damn it, I need more attacks in my repertoire. Only that and a few more is what I got." Issei was angry, but he thought of something, a crazy idea. There was no teacher like experience. Time to use a bit more power. While saying that, Issei coated his entire body in the maximum amount of darkness he could use. Volley and Albion, who were watching this, were stunned, but Albion even more so. "No, something like that is impossible. He's far too young for that to actually happen to him." Albion was thinking about a certain possibility one only dragons had. Issei then used his darkness and formed a pair of wings. He flapped them and disappeared from his position. His speed was so fast to the point that Volley couldn't see him for a second. "Fast!" Volley raised his guard and instinctively blocked his left, and a hand coated in purple and black flames both hit his arms. Bang! Volley was shot down from the sky. Like a missile, he crashed on the ground. The heat felt was terrible, and strength behind the blow was even more so. Even while graduating against the attack, he felt the reverberations of blow on his armor. What monstrous strength! I can't feel my arms. He stood up, while both of his arms were numb. Albion released the armor. Since he was hit by both the flames, he had to release the armor so not to burn to death. His gauntlets fell near him. Taking a discreet look at the first place of the armor that was hit a little while ago, he could see how the flames were still raging. It seems those flames won't extinguish easily, he reached the conclusion. The comet was heard by Issei, who was still in the air, his wings behind his back. I knew this bastard was tough, but receiving a full-powered attack plus my flames and leaving only with that, it seems I have much to learn. Issei was trying to figure out a plan. I need something that punishes his defense, magical and physical. Thinking about a possible attack, he focused on his left hand. His darkness squirmed all over his arm and soon took the shape of a spear. It looked like an old, classic Spartan spear. Not enough. I needed to literally make a hole in him, like a drill. He had an idea. He made a spiral energy come out of the top of the spear. Stay there. I'd rather not have this thing go near me, Issei threw the spear. In the air, the spiral of energy surrounded the spear point and gave it a beautiful purple and black tail. Its speed beyond ridiculous. Slash! Volley was shocked. He didn't see the spear at all. When he noticed, it already penetrated his side. It seems harder to control than I thought, Issei muttered and created another spear. I sacrificed the damage of the flames to make this spear, but instead of that, its speed is ridiculous. Plus the magical and physical penetration. What should I name it? How about Drill? I think I won't forget that name. Thinking of useless stuff as always, Issei prepared to throw the second spear but was stopped. The guards finally decided to intervene, seeing that guard of Issei was low. The high-tier ultimate class yokai threw a couple of Amidamu spells at him and screamed, "Punishment of the deceased!" The high-tier ultimate class yokai formed a pentagram of the fire in the sky. Issei was floating below and got in the pillar of the flames, not knowing that because of this he got an idea. Boom! He was sent flying towards the ground, denting the earth. White Dragon Emperor, are you okay? A yokai asked him. Idiots! Don't let your eyes off of him, he yelled at them. Rip! Volley pulled out a spear out from his side and blood dripping onto the ground. Died. Ha! A maniacal laugh echoed all over the place. That actually did hurt, a voice was heard from the pillar flames. Everyone looked around to the source of it. Someone came from the still burning pillar. The majority of his clothes were now gone. The skin on his right side of his face, his abdomen, and his left legs was badly burnt. It looked like third-degree burns. Seeing like that, Volley relaxed a bit, but the fatigue got him. That should stop him for a while. Looking at the wounds of his foe, Volley smiled, but he was breathing heavily. Those punches and kicks alongside the first-degree burns he received from his armor heating up actually did quite the damage. His punches and kicks may have cracked a bone, and burns are annoying, he thought to himself. The biggest wound was the one at his side. Although the diameter of the hole was small, around the size of a big coin, he still felt the pain from it. Since the spear literally went through him, he had 2 holes at the side of his body. Damn it, it actually hurts, he complained inside of his head and heard Albion's words. Volley, this guy, I believe he's hiding something. I think I know what it is, but it should be impossible. What are you talking about, Albion? Before he could get an answer from him, he saw something unbelievable. Time to heal. I can't fight like this. Issei let his darkness heal him. It started to coil around his left leg, going up and covering his right, and then started his whole face. Not even a couple of seconds went by, his wounds were completely gone, as if nothing received any at all. Everyone was amazed. No words came from their mouths. Even Albion was the same. The idea inside his head was getting clearer and clearer, but he just wanted to deny it. I'll show you real flames. Raging flames that have been compressed with intense heat. Let's try it. He thought. At the tip of the spear, a small ember of flame appeared. Flare up! He lifted his spear and pointed it at them. A tip of it, the small ember moved uncontrollably, emitting huge flames. Then it happened. Everything in front of Issei was swallowed by a huge tide of purple-black flames. The flames split in seconds, turned into a pillar that reached heavens, and everyone, aside of Volley, who moved on instinct, was swallowed by it. The yokais, every single one of them, had burns covering most parts of their body, some more parts than others. The 3 high-tier ultimate-class yokai that attacked them received the full force of the impact, and as a result, they were barely breathing. They might even need treatment for a couple of months if they did not want those wounds to be permanent. Volley was far away from those inferno of flames while using his wings floating in the air. Damn it. I might need to use the Imperial Juggernaut Overdrive if things keep going like this. He was frustrated. He thought that the match would be more or less equal, but he never expected for a guy to actually have so many powerful attacks. You're strong, I'll give you that, Volley acknowledges. But I'm stronger, he yelled. Prepared for one of his trump cards, a silver white-haired aura covered his whole armor in the sky. Earth started to quake. I who shall awaken. Issei, who was below him, felt his hair stand on the end when he heard that chant. Now, this was serious. But Volley was forced to stop the chant when he heard in a natural rumbling of thunder that was sensed a sudden increase in energy at the distance. Clouds formed under the sky, covering the night sky, and a single lightning bolt split the sky and went straight towards Issei. Shit! He dodged the bolt since he knew the healing of the damage from the attack would be annoying. Yun Harakako, stop playing around and fight seriously. He is no enemy to underestimate. A voice similar to the rumbling of thunder was heard, and a tall man who looked in his late 20s with distinctive bull-like horns coming out of the sides of his head appeared at the side of Volley. He had an electric blue eyes, the same color as his hair, with a small beard on his chin. He was wearing a white robe with a black shirt underneath and a bloody red sandals on his feet. Susanoo no Mikako. Volley narrowed his eyes a bit. Issei was only looking at the man present. The amount of power he admitted was absurd even for him. The god of storms, he mentally noted as he lifted his guard to the limit. Sister, are you all right? I came the moment I sensed a huge clash of aura. My guess would be from the young man in the front of us and the Harakako. He talked about the woman in red hair, who until now was just a spectator. Brother, her full tone of relief. He's a terrorist. He planted a bomb, and in case my aura will blow, she screamed at him. Huh? What are you talking about? There's no bomb in the party. There's no bomb that works like that. You're too easy to trick, he screamed back at her. He figured it out now, huh? Issei thought. Truly worthy of God, of not only storms but also mischief, figuring out my little plot that easily. But well, it was thought on the spot. He agreed with him, since there was no point in keeping it up. However, he was nervous. Right now his opponents were not just Volley, but also 2 gods. He didn't know how much more time he could buy. Come on, Fuki, hurry. His mind went to the fox. Oh, it seems that someone knows about my deeds. Susanoo sounded satisfied. Right, young dragon. He asked back without taking his eyes off from the dragon. Thanks for the praise, he calmly talked. So all this was a trick? Amaterasu questioned. Yeah, the dead look in both Susanoo and Issei was priceless. Then why did you say that? She asked Issei. Because I needed you out of the play. His answer made her speechless. Right now, since I'm weak, I can't take both of you. He simply pointed at Volley and then at her. Then look at his sister's face made Susanoo's giggle a little. She always had the best expressions. He then turned to look at Issei and seriously asked, What do you want, dragon? Me? From you? He sounded confused. Nothing, he replied. After all, he wasn't interested in the treasure. He's only helping Fuki. Then why are you here? The god asked again. Confusion written all over his face. I just came here to help someone. He concentrated his aura, forming a huge pillar the same color as an abyss. The atmosphere turned heavy, and the ground underneath him, as well as the clouds in the sky, started to disappear. Focusing again, he summoned Rebellion. Seeing the odd blade in his left arm, everyone stood on guard, while he prepared himself to use the overdrive again. The gods were also the same, preparing for the worst. I am just bait. His grin increased in size and focused his entire aura, every piece of it, into his blade. A pitch-black flame stronger than ever before materialized on the edge of it. And like a scabbard, it surrounded the entire length of the blade. The heat it emanated was ridiculously high. Rocks in the surroundings started to melt. Heat waves could be seen in the surroundings. The structures behind them started to catch in a blaze. What a ridiculous heat. The same as my sisters. The god was stunned by the power of those flames. Amaterasu on the other side could see the fire in a more detailed version. Flames that won't extinguish once you're hit by them. Similar to my own in that regard, but this is extremely dark. For him to use them, he needs to remember about a horrible experience he went through. What a terrible price to pay. She looked at the flames and quickly analyzed them, and although he was an enemy, she felt sorry for him. Those flames were beautiful, but to use them, it seemed he needed to pay a price. If he wasn't an enemy, I would have trained him to use those flames without a cost. She was lamenting about how her fate played her. Volley, don't let that hit you. Albion broke off his thoughts. Even with Imperio Juggernaut Overdrive, you would probably suffer from unhealable wounds. His voice was deadly serious. Those flames hold that much power? He was speechless at the power of the flames. Maybe those flames can seriously wound a god, Albion muttered his thoughts. Volley looked at Susanoo and saw the serious expression on his face, further proving Albion's point. So they can hurt a god. He regained his bearing and asked. Yes, but they can't kill them. Still, they are capable of hurting them, an amazing feat. Albion was proud that one his race was capable of that much. It seems my guesses were right. You did awaken your hatchling. To gain that much strength, what kind of suffering did you have to go through? Albion thought to himself. The sound of metal made everyone pay attention to the man once again. Let's see how much damage this can give you, Issei said with a wicked grin. He shook his blade, making a little ember of flame hit the ground and instantly combusting all around it. He flexed his muscle on all of his body like a flash of lightning. He reached the god of storms. Forcing his left arm to the limit, he used every ounce of strength he had and screamed, Kami Shikigari. He swung the blade in the diagonal fashion right onto the god. A curved energy was released on top of the god. It was huge and outrageously powerful. The god was not expecting the amount of power, crossed his arms at the height of his chest, and covered himself in blue aura that had white lightning on its surroundings. Bang! Brother! The woman screamed, surprised by the amount of power the attack held. The energy wave continued its track, burning everything on the ground. Then it reached the Imperial Palace. Slice! Like a hot knife through the butter, the black and purple energy wave cut the entire Imperial Palace in half. Meanwhile, Issei fell on a knee and was breathing heavily. His demonic state was removed and only its mark remained, clearly from overusing his aura. Damn. Thought I was tougher than that. Not even properly thinking, he tried to calm his heavy breathing. After that, he heard a voice coming out of the light blue wings of his rival. It seems you did it, hatchling. Albion's voice sounded satisfied. His partner and the goddess were surprised by the words of the dragon. With his head lowered, Issei replied, Took you a while to figure out, Albion. Issei managed to regain his breath, but he could feel his left arm was broken because of the attack. Well, that happens when you control huge amounts of power without experience. I should be happy my arm didn't blow up, he thought, trying to heal his arm. Amazing. You actually did it. While the lights of Divine Dividing Wings blinked repetitively, Albion said to him, With you, hatchling, there are 11 dragons that awoke their aura throughout history. An incredible feat. Albion was extremely excited, maybe because his race was once again gaining strength. Meanwhile, the goddess and Volley went wide-eyed. They didn't understand what dragon was talking about. Hatchling, I am so sorry. Issei could see that Albion was sincere with his apology. For you to have awoken your aura so early, you must have been through an experience that words cannot describe. Albion knew the reasons for their aura to activate. One was good, but took a long period of time, and the second one was terrible to the point you wouldn't want it, even for your worst enemy. Issei laughed in silence at the words of Albion. He was grateful that he felt that way. Quite the good dragon, however. Their break didn't last long before a blue aura with light lightnings was seen in the distance. Susanoo appeared at the side of Amaterasu, this time with a wound on his body. It was a long cut that was going his left arm and into his shoulder. The one his arm looked skin deep. Not painful at all, but the one in his shoulder looked like it reached his left collarbone. Blood was overflowing from the wound and its edges were charred black. Incredible. No one managed to hurt me this badly in more than 600 years. He touched his wound with his right hand. Young dragon, you are the first to have done this feat, Susanoo spoke, with a calm voice and even respect seen in his eyes. Shit, Issei cursed. He hoped that he would have stayed down for a little longer. Sister, the evacuation started the moment the flames covered his blade, so no one got hurt. Also, they have already evacuated the entire palace, so only 3 of us and him are left. The god talked to his sister as he felt the sudden burst of pain in his left shoulder. I can't fight the 3 of them. I still need to gain more time. But the only path left is to reveal myself. He was doubting whether revealing himself or not. Young dragon, have you nowhere to go? Why not give yourself in? The storm god tried to convince Issei. No one got hurt aside from the guards, but you let all live. I don't feel angry for my ruin, but rather intrigued. I want to know about the man that wounded me since the last 600 years. His speech was quite convincing. The young Hirakako will be eager to fight against you again, and the White Dragon Emperor himself feels proud of you. My sister was indeed tricked by you, but she's kind and has a great heart. If she was able to forgive me, then she will forgive you if she hasn't already done so. The god tried to convince Issei, truly worthy of his title of God of the Storms and Mischief. His words were sweet as sugar. The only way to gain time is to reveal myself. No words spoken and elegant this. He finally reached the conclusion, his head still slow. He grabbed his knee, and in other words, and soon started to lift. I don't have enough energy to fight. That last attack took everything from me. He was mentally thinking about any possible solution. It seems my freedom only lasted for a day, but what a day. He stood up from his position, slowly revealing his face, but a figure blocked his vision. Of course, the other way was the same. A beautiful woman stood in front of him. She had tears in her eyes. Everything he went through was seen by her inside. The room where the Yakuza no Magatama was located. The seals and spells took her longer period of time than she thought, but seeing him fight against the Hirakako and defeating him, against the yokai and defeating them as well, plotting and tricking the sun goddess and intriguing the god of storms, her heart felt warm, indescribably warmth that made her happy and safe. You were willing to sacrifice your everything, and so you got wounded because of me, a person you just met. If that's not worthy of my trust and even more, then I don't know what is. She was mentally thanking Issei for his sacrifice. Ever since they got out of prison, she started to like the young man more and more. From being serious guy during important situations, to the jokey man that made her smile, to the teasing man that made her blush, to the man that told her about his dream of being free and travel around the world. Her trust was true. Her trust already has ever since he spoke those words in the cave, ever since he freed her and gave her a reason to keep fighting. What she was looking for all this time was if he was worthy of her feelings. Being always alone ever since young, she longed for the company of her other half, one that was worthy of her emotions and heart, and didn't lust after her beauty. She wished to someone to stay by her side even in the worst of moments, and after seeing all that has happened and still deciding to give up his everything, she tossed aside her doubts and came to help. Now she was certain of her decision. Issei Hyodo, you just won my heart. She was crying because she was happy that the feelings she were for such a splendid man. Now it's my turn to make you fall for me. She was a decisive woman, and she had a goal. You got it? Issei asked, the beauty that was giving her back. Of course, sweetie. Who do you think I am? Her tone was flirty. That alone made Issei smile. I'm glad you have it back. He was truly happy of that. She was sure of it. We need to leave. Fuki didn't lose a moment of her silhouettes of the gods in front of her. She didn't feel scared, rather excited. I can't use my gate. The last attack took everything from me. Just keeping myself like this is costing me a lot. He explained his situation in a low voice. Who are you? The storm god asked the woman. He was disappointed that she appeared. After all, the young dragon was almost going to give himself in. Damn, he was annoyed. He held a lot of interest towards the dragon, even though the wound still hurt. Me? Sorry. I'm a nobody, she teased, but her voice was cold and cautious. I only came for our leader. See, recently he had an incident so that he isn't his best condition, yet he still decided to come. Quite the man, she explained to the god as she licked her lips, managing to get a surprised look from the three. Not in his best, yet capable of wounding a god? Everyone thought the same. At the moment, Fuki closed her distance with Issei and her senjutsu to help him recover some of his lost energy. That should help you stand up properly. She was worried he noticed that. Thanks, Fuki. Those words whispered into his ear, making her slightly blush. You're welcome, she replied with a seductive voice that made even the god of storms hide his blush. Think you can take us out here? Issei was still in the same piece of ice as always. He used his former transformation and covered the side of his face, and thanks to his hair, the other side was also covered. He finally could relax. They hadn't found out his identity. You can't escape. I already sealed the space itself, so no one will come without my permission, Amaterasu told them, the words of her brother still in her head. Sorry, young man, but I won't let you escape, she sensibly licked her lips as she hid the interest in her eyes. Her head was filled with thoughts about his capture and questioning. Then her offer of protection and training him to be a possible future successor of her position. After all, the new generation was monstrous, and now the time had changed rulers. And the young man was smart, cunning, courageous, but also devoted to his belief. She liked that. You're already plotting, sister. The god of storm recognized the look that gave it to him. It was look that she gave what she wanted somewhat at all costs. Till this day, it still scared him a little. Not at all, she replied while making a cute face. Young dragon, you just got the attention of someone you shouldn't have. I am so sorry. He felt pity for the dragon. So who are you? I did not sense your presence until now, Volley at the side of them asked the woman. I'm a yokai. That tone reminded him about Lavinia, but he could feel the chill in her voice. A yokai? Then why have I not heard about you? Amaterasu tilted her head. Maybe because my entire family was chased by your subordinates ever since a couple of centuries ago. She tilted her head cutely, but her sharp and chilling voice caused her to stop. Issei noticed this and placed a hand on her shoulder as a sign of support. Are you sure about this? He asked in a low voice. He knew what she wanted to do. Yes, I will no longer hide. I have face my past and concentrate on my future. She had a glow in her eyes, something he loved to see. You finally have that light in your eyes. While thinking that, he didn't notice the last part. Oh, Issei, seeing his smile made her butterflies in her stomach. Chased? Her thoughts were interrupted by Amaterasu. She heard the same words from the young man a little while ago. Yes, because no one cared about the side of my story. My grandmother was chased all over the country and then killed, Fuki bit her lips, drawing blood. Just because the people thought she was an evil being. Issei squished her shoulder tightly. Because of greed of an emperor, she was chased and forced to live in the shadows, giving birth to a single little fox that depended entirely on herself in a cruel world. Issei, seeing this, moved his hand from her shoulder and instead went for her own hand. Feeling the warmth of his hand, she smiled and gained courage. That fox was used by a man just because of her beauty, and gave birth to another little fox. The mother died while giving birth, and the little fox was left alone and picked by humans. They raised her like her own, but in this country, because of her nature, she was chased by her own kind and captured about to be executed. The god of storms is quiet, Volley as well, but the one that was the most shocked was Amaterasu. She was heard all about what she went through thanks to her own kind and felt awful. Without any hope in sight, she gave up on life, but she was saved by a young dragon that was looking for her. I want you as part of my team. I want you to regain the light in your eyes that you should have. He told her those words, and soon she believed them. She started to trust him, and slowly she believed she will be happy again. Issei was slightly embarrassed when she mentioned his words. He told her that was in the heat of the moment. That little fox was me, and that story is the story of my life, and the one of my family. She was ready. I formally introduced myself, she made a reverence. My name is Benikamichi Fuki, pure-blood yokai and expert in all Japanese arts, senjutsu, yojutsu, toki, omidomi arts, proudly descendant of the Kyubiyo no Yoko, Tamiya no Mei. At those words, her 9 tails and ears became visible, red in color with a tinge of black. Everyone widened their eyes in shock. The descendants of the Kyubiyo no Yoko were supposedly exterminated a long time ago. She's a yokai much stronger than Kuroka, Volley was thinking to himself. The last descendant of the original Kyuubi, Susanoo thought to himself, clearly stunned by the words. She is? Amaterasu had no words. Someone like her was extremely powerful and rare. She could be an incredible force on her faction, second to none, not even to Yakuza. Fuki felt a weight being lifted from her shoulders. You did great, Issei comforted his voice and made her want to hear him more. Please, talk more. She was already blinded by her feelings. Incredible, Susanoo screamed. The last known descendant of her, and possibly the strongest yokai. He was clearly excited. First, the Dragon Boy, then the descendant of Tamio no Mei. Treasures were appearing on their faction. They wouldn't let them get away. This incident will be solved privately. He didn't want the rest to know about the treasures in front of them. Fuki, we should leave. Issei was feeling better. You can't escape. Both my sister and I have already reinforced the space around us. Nothing you do now will take you out. Susanoo was confident. Amaterasu at his side was the same. We won't do anything this will do for us. Fuki lifted her left wrist. On it was a bracelet scene. It was extremely thin, black in color, with a couple of green bananas on it. Seeing that thing, both of the gods lost their proud faces. Instead was replaced with anxiety and shock. Break the boundary between worlds, Yakuza no Magatama. Hearing the chant, both the gods flew at them. Transfer! The bracelet shined and space started to twist, and soon it broke. Seeing this, both gods increased their speeds, Issei and Fuki. The moment space was ripped apart and was already getting in, Fuki even had the gall to say, bye-bye. Mockery was clear in her voice. Before they could reach them, the cracked space was closed, and they got away right under their noses. Damn it, Susanoo was angered. They actually had the Yakuza no Magatama with them. If he knew earlier, then he wouldn't have played with them. They got played by 2 kids. Damn, quite the youngsters. He calmed himself. His sister was pretty much the same. What will we do? He asked his sister. Reported to the factions, everything. That's our best move. We need to find them again and better help for the factions. She spoke to her brother, getting only a nod as a response. A Dragon Emperor. We asked you not to say about our interest in them, only what's necessary. The goddess bowed her head. Volley meanwhile said, okay, you'll owe me one. I also don't want more work that's boring, and notifying about them will send me to field to look for them. Better for me. Volley agreed, as he also had motives. Albion. What exactly were you talking with him? He remembered the conversation he heard between them. About that. It will take time to explain. Albion knew that Volley wanted information about him. We have time after this. Volley was interested in the words from Albion, not once he heard them like that, so proud, excited, and happy, and not about himself, but rather about his race. I'll leave. Good luck. Since the 2 gods lifted the ceiling in space, he could finally get out of here. Wounds were killing him. Damn it. It'll be annoying to explain. Volley left his destination to the underworld. And that is where we're going to stop for today, as my throat is going to explode. So, once again, the 30K special will hopefully be out, I don't know, soon, but your boy's kind of sick right now, and it was pretty hard to read today, I'm not going to lie. So I'm probably going to sleep after this. I'm going to attempt to train. I did run. I think that I have COVID, apparently. Well, I know I have COVID. I don't know why I said apparently. I had the thing and everything. But, yeah, I do have COVID, and I ran with it, too. And, well, oh, boy. Yeah, I ran and lifted. I worked out with it because, well, I still want to get stronger. But, anyway, thank you so much for the support. 30,000 subscribers. What a journey. Looking back on everything, who would have known that I would have been at 30,000 subscribers from just High School DxD in general? Obviously, my plan is now to go into like what ifs with other animes as well, but I'm still going to have the DxD continuations, of course, because that's just how your boy rolls. So thank you so much for the support. Once again, my Dragon Ball channel will be linked down in the description below. I have Popowski, Follow DxD, as well as linked in the recommended channels. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you to all my balance breakers and limit breakers. Without further ado, let's try to hit 1,000 likes. Without further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD out.